Tonight on the Reidout, Florida historian Marvin Dunn, who sees what Ron DeSantis is doing to criminalize the teaching of African-American history, but says, we're going to keep on teaching it.
We want to do history. That's what our standards for Black history are. It's just cut and dried history. You learn all the basics, you learn about the great figures, and I view it as American history. I don't view it as separate history.
We told you last week about the latest move by Governor Ron DeSantis to control the type of education that Florida students can receive, rejecting an advanced placement course in African-American studies, claiming it was, quote, contrary to Florida law, and if you can believe it, significantly lacking educational value. We see and hear you, Ron. The law he refers to seems to be the Stop Woke Act, which basically gives DeSantis the power to downplay the actual racial history of our country to appease those who look more like, well, Ron DeSantis. For many teachers, this assault on the education system is instilling fear of teaching the true history of our country, and even Florida's history of racial violence, as depicted in this dystopian ad from the advocacy group Equality Florida.
I have a dream. My four little children will be judged by the content of their character. I have a dream.
Miss George, why is this part crossed out?
But there are some in the state who refuse to back down, like Marvin Dunn, one of the preeminent historians in Florida, who is saying, bring it on. Dunn, a professor emeritus at Florida International University, is taking it upon himself to, as he says, teach the truth by leading statewide tours of high school students and their parents to the sites of some of the worst racial violence in Florida's history, sites that some of these students say they have never heard about in their own classrooms. Dunn is also one of the 8 plaintiffs in a lawsuit over the Stop Woke Act law. He told the Washington Post, quote, listen, if there is such a thing as the woke mob in Florida, I aspire to lead it. Professor Marvin Dunn joins me now. He is the author of A History of Florida Through Black Eyes. And I have not seen this wonderful gentleman in many years. It is good to lay eyes upon you, Professor Dunn. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Joy. Good to see you again, too.
Great to see you, too. So your book is called A History of Florida Through Black Eyes. It contains photos that were unearthed over 50 years of research, documenting lynchings and other crimes against Black folks in Florida. You also donated a collection, 4,000 photos, to FIU, Florida International University, which I know very well. Is your book, in your view, in your mind, as you understand this, quote, Stop Woke Act, is it legal to teach your book in Florida schools?
Oh, no. No. If a teacher in Florida schools was caught taking this book to school, he or she could be fired, could be charged with a felony. This book is not allowed in Florida schools because it touches on the very things that DeSantis wants hidden from Florida students. So no, this book is not admitted, could not be admitted into the Florida classroom. That's part of what we're facing here in this crisis.
And you tweet, go on.
I was just going to say, I was teaching at Florida International University before Ron DeSantis was born. Now he sidles up to me and tells me what I can't teach in my classroom. Excuse me, sir, you're not my boss. You're not the boss of me. This man, when he taught school for a very brief period of time, some of his students claimed that Ron DeSantis taught the Civil War as if the Confederates had a point. They lost property. Some of his students said that Ron DeSantis taught them that abortion was wrong. Now he's teaching this in his classes, his political agenda, his personal agenda. Now he comes as governor and tells us we can't teach unless we respect what he prescribes as very, very rigid rules of academic freedom. He's a hypocrite. He's an absolute hypocrite. And what he's doing, frankly, is just totally destroying education in Florida. I dare this man to show me one school in Florida where critical race theory is being taught. Just one school. One school in Florida where students are being told, feel bad because of something someone did 200 years ago. Where is that happening, Ron? He cannot point out, this is all made up. It's fake, aimed at getting him to the White House. This man is running for president and using race as a cudgel to beat the votership over the head.
To your very point, I mean, the things that they claim are their concerns, because you've already had Florida's College Board rejected, the African American Studies course rejected. You've had Florida schools that are under the, sort of the regime of the governor come back and say, no, 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 we promise we're not teaching critical race theory in our schools. As you said, they don't, that they've already backed down and said that they won't do it. You actually went right at Ron DeSantis. You are one of the members, one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that is trying to challenge the Stop Woke Act. You tweeted references to your own family's history at Ron DeSantis, and you said to him, this is the history of my own family. These are the things that we dealt with. Collecting used books from all white schools because they couldn't be allowed to have new books. Being on the migrant trails in the 1940s, your father not being allowed to be a cook in the Navy during World War II because he was black. Have you received a response from Ron DeSantis on the challenges you put forward about your own history?
Not a word. I wrote to Ron and to Manny Diaz, asking them, what kinds of things am I not allowed to teach? How am I supposed to teach the Holocaust without feelings? How am I supposed to teach slavery without feelings? How am I to explain to students a woman having her baby snatched from her and sold out to someone else and not express my sense that that's evil? So what we're being asked to do is to super sterilize American history, to take race out of it and act as if race wasn't a factor. If DeSantis had his way in the teaching of slavery, for example, slavery in Florida would be taught. Some Africans came over, worked for free for a while, and that was it. That's slavery. Lynching, some people took some people and killed them. That's it. Take the race out of it. He is so determined to kill our history that it just makes me and others even more determined to save it and to protect it. I don't shrink from DeSantis. He is a bully. He's an autocrat. And he's a little guy trying to become a big guy. He's a baby Trump. And I think the people of this country will recognize that, particularly when they see what he's going to do to our schools if he becomes president.
Well, and I will note that Manny Diaz, for those who don't know, Manny Diaz Jr. is the Secretary of Education. He's the Commissioner of Education in Florida. He is the one who praised the colleges, including two that have black presidents, who put out this sort of, statement of kneeling to Ron DeSantis, saying, no, no, don't worry. We won't teach anything about critical race theory in our schools. I want to point out some of the things that Manny Diaz put out a statement objecting to. Teaching and reading bell hooks. Teaching and reading Kimberly Crenshaw, who is, because of her connection to intersectionality. Teaching Angela Davis, a seminal figure in African-American and American history. I could go on. Do you believe that because of what Ron DeSantis is doing, and it's seemingly his personal objection to the idea that there was racism in America and that it should be taught, do you think that's going to make Florida students less attractive to colleges around the country and less educated?
It should and will cripple Florida students, because they're going to go to colleges and universities that have been steeped in this history, and our students are going to be lost. They'll have no idea where to begin to understand American history, African American history in particular, after going through the DeSantis type education program in Florida. It would be a tragedy for our university system to be destroyed by this man. He's after tenure now with professors. He's trying to ask universities to tell him how much money they're spending on diversity. Why does he want to know that? Why does he wish to know that? And I want to know who in the Department of Education said that this education was that the AP course was inadequate. Did a black person make that call?
I will point out that it was not, and we're going to find that out. And I can tell you that one of the people who helped create this curriculum that's now illegal in Florida is Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., who, like yourself, sir, is a seminal scholar of American and African American history. So apparently that is banned in Florida because Ron DeSantis is offended by the idea of black history being taught in his state. Professor Marvin Dunn, thank you, sir. It is wonderful to see you. Thank you, and keep fighting.